Shanghai, 1935. Lao Che asks if Dr. Indiana Jones has found Nurachi. Vocalist Willie Scott appears. Lao introduces everyone, including the famous archaeologist. Lao presents coins for Indy on a rotatable table. Indy wants the diamond. Lao gives Indy the diamond and a drink. Indy takes this and toasts Lao's health. Indy's friend Wu Han gives Nurachi to Lao. Lao says inside are the remains of Nurachi, the first emperor of Manchu dynasty. Lao wants the diamond back, holding the antidote to the poison Indy just drank. Wu Han reveals a gun underneath his tray. Indy wants the antidote. Wu Han's killed. Indy impales Wu Han's killer with a burning skewer. The diamond's knocked onto the dance floor, as is the antidote. Indy avoids throwing knives and knocks over ice, hiding the diamond. Willie puts the antidote in her clothes. Lao's son machine guns Indy, who hides behind a large silver rolling gong with Willie. They break through a window. They land on several buildings' canopies, then drop into a car. Driver Shorty tells Indy to hold on to his potatoes. Indy drinks the antidote and shoots the chasing car so it crashes. Indy's friend Weber's secured 3 seats on a cargo of live poultry. It says Lao Che Air Freight on the plane. Indy changes into his brown fedora hat and tilts his hat over his eyes to sleep. Mid-air, the crew dump the remaining fuel and jump out. Willie wakes Indy. Both propellers are spluttering, and there's a mountain dead ahead. All 3 must jump out the plane with only a self-inflating dinghy. Soon, they're floating down a river. Somebody's watching. Indy bows with his hands at the white-haired shaman, who leads to his village. Indy requests a guide to Delhi. The new Maharaja has the power of the dark light, which killed the shaman's people. They came from the palace and took Shivalinga, a sacred stone, from the shrine that protects the village. The shaman says Indy must go to Pankot Palace to find Shivalinga and return it to the village. When the stone was taken, the wells dried up and the river turned to sand. The crops were swallowed by the earth and the animals turned to dust. Then the Maharaja's men stole the villagers' children. Indy says the writing on the boy's parchments Sanskrit from the legend of Sankara. He climbs Mount Kailasa to meet Shiva, the Hindu god. Shiva's handing the priest rocks. Shiva told them to go forth and combat evil, using 5 sacred stones. At the palace, Indy introduces Chata Lal to Willie and Shorty. Later, Lal introduces Captain Blumbert, 11th Pune Rifles, and presents His Supreme Highness, Guardian of Pankot Tradition, the Maharaja of Pankot, Salim Singh. The captain says the Thugee once worshipped Kali with human sacrifices. Indy was told the peasants from a small village said Pankot Palace was thriving because of an ancient evil, and that Pankot Palace had stolen a sacred rock. Willie struggles when she sees a python slit open to reveal squirming black snakes. The next course is large black beetles. Soup arrives containing eyeballs. Dessert is chilled monkey brains. All other dignitaries are enthusiastic, except Shorty and Willie, who passes out. Later, Willie tells Indy she wears only jewels to bed. As a scientist, Indy isn't shocked. She asks what research he'd do on her. He says nocturnal activities and mating customs. She asks, love rituals? He says primitive sexual practices. She asks if he's an authority in that area. He says years of field work. They kiss. She says he'll never have better. As a scientist, he mustn't prejudice his experiment. He'll let her know in the morning. Willie calls him a conceited ape. He says she's too used to getting her own way. She shouts he's too proud to admit he's crazy about her. Indy says she knows where he is in case she needs him. She says he'll be back over to her in 5 minutes. Indy's attacked and struggles to breathe. Shorty throws Indy his whip. Indy catches the man's neck, and the attacker is hanged on the ceiling fan. Indy runs to Willie's room looking for attackers, then finds a draft blowing flowers. He pushes a statue and the wall recedes. In the tunnel, Indy lights a match, revealing a carpet of insects. Shorty activates a button. A door rolls shut behind them, and another lowers ahead. Shorty leans against another button. The ceiling descends. Indy shouts to Willie. Willie sees corpses, screams, and falls onto a button. In Indy's cave, spikes raise up through the floor and down through the ceiling. As Indy and Shorty are almost crushed, Willie's horrified she's broken a nail. She has a carpet of insects on her shoes and some in her hair. Indy figures there has to be a fulcrum release that opens the door. Willie eventually grabs the lever. Indy's cave becomes safe. A hysterical Willie pushes the button again. Indy only just reaching back for his hat. All three are watching an ancient Thuggee ceremony. A fearful male sacrifice chants to himself on a flat cage. Molaram presents the sacrifice's heart to the worshippers. The sacrifice is descended to reach the lava. His heart, in Molaram's hand, bursts into flame. All three stones are brought together, causing them to glow. They're placed in a stone face. When the rocks are together, the diamonds glow. Indy's not leaving without the stones. He swings down to the stage and puts the stones in his bag. Soon, Indy, Willie, and Shorty are in a cage. One of the boys in there wants to drink the blood of Kali and fall into the black sleep of the Kali Ma. Molaram tells Indy there were 5 stones. A loyal priest hid the last two in the catacombs. The children mine for these. When the Thuggees have all 5 Sankara stones, they'll be all-powerful. Molaram tips the Kali's blood into Indy's mouth, but he spits it out. The Maharaja holds a voodoo doll of Indy in flames, burning the real Indy. Shorty kicks away the doll, but is captured. Indy's lashed with his own whip. Molaram drips Kali's blood into Indy's mouth, and a guard forces closed his mouth. Molaram says soon, Kali Ma. Indy contorts, then starts laughing. Indy says they pledge their devotion to Kali Ma with an offering of flesh and blood, and approaches Willie. Willie spits in Indy's face, then is lowered, screaming. Shorty successfully pushes a burning torch at Indy. Indy overpowers the guards and kills Lal in the wheel mechanism. Shorty throws Indy a bag for the stones. Indy, Willie and Shorty free the children. The children overwhelm guards and ransack the lavish dining room, rubbing their eyes in the sunlight. The Maharaja stabs Indy's doll. Indy's paralyzed. Shorty removes the spike and pushes a flaming torch at the Maharaja, afterwards explaining it was the black sleep of Kali. The Maharaja tells Shorty the way out. Willie falls into a cart. Shorty climbs over a guard and Indy ziplines in. Their only chance is to gather speed. Indy drops lumber across the tracks, then releases sand. The lumber makes the following cart leave its tracks. With no brake, Indy uses his foot. They stop in time, but Indy's on fire. He sees the flood Molarams unleashed, and suddenly they're on a ledge hundreds of feet over a ravine. Willie's scared to cross the rope bridge. Shorty falls through the floor. With crocodiles far below, Willie pulls him back up. Molaram captures them both. Guards move towards Indy from both sides. Indy says if Molaram wants the stones, he should release Indy's friends. Molaram says the stones will be found. Indy won't. Indy tells Shorty in Chinese what he's going to do. Indy tells Molaram he'll meet Kali in hell, then cuts the bridge. People tumble. Indy trades blows with Molaram, covering his heart. Molaram throws a guard at Indy, then tells his men to shoot him. Willie and Shorty stamp on Molaram's fingers. Molaram falls onto Indy, and they tussle. Indy says Molaram's betrayed Shiva. The bag between them catches fire. 2 stones are dropped, but Molaram catches the third. It's so hot, he fumbles it. Indy catches the now cooled stone, and Molaram falls screaming. The British army arrives with the Maharaja and fire at Molaram's men. They also appear on the other side and capture Molaram's men there. The 3 revisit the village. It's lively with happy villagers. The shaman approaches, bowing. This is reciprocated by Indy, Willie, and Shorty. Dozens of children appear, reunited with their families. Indy returns Shivalinga. Willie's going home to civilized Missouri. Indy whips her around the waist and pulls her to him. Shorty's elephant sprays them with water. Indy kisses Willie again, and the children rush up to them. Starring Harrison Ford, Kate Capshaw, Quan, rated 12A, directed by Steven Spielberg, released in the UK 1984, runtime 1 hour 58 minutes.